mailbox.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'd like to thank everyone for coming here tonight. This is an informational meeting called between the Board of Selectmen, the Warrant and Finance, and the Road Committee to discuss the possibility of changing the way that we do things with our road commissioners. Over the last year and a half, there's been a little bit of turbulence and whatnot, but mostly we've had two road commissioners resign for different reasons, and we feel as though this might be a good time to entertain looking at making one road commissioner for the town of Acton, and rather than have it being an appointed position, have it be rather than be an elected position, have it be an appointed position. So that'll, it'll help in many different ways. We have a slideshow here that, excuse me, that we put together. Jen's going to run through the slideshow. Excuse me. We were talking about this frog in our throat earlier tonight. There's a number of different things to go over here. Tonight, we'd like to keep this more of an informational meeting. Hold your questions, please, to the end, and we may even just, depending on what we have for questions, have the two committees, put together some questions and come back. But I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a long process to go through, but I think we have a lot of information here that may make this a lot of sense. We tried this a few years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago. At that time, we did have two elected road commissioners. Right now, we have no elected road commissioners serving right now. We have one that has been appointed, one that's appointed for a temporary period. So, thinking about it, this may be the perfect opportunity to really seriously look at this and see. And we're very interested in getting, having both the Warrant and Finance and the Road Committee be a part of this and see how we go. So, you two want to add something to this?
Yeah, I've been in the position almost 3 years, and looking at the roads and how they worked, it didn't really make sense to me to have two different districts. The town's not created equally on both sides. One side might have needed more work than the other, but we were giving the same amount of money for each side, and it didn't make sense to me. So I started to wonder, is it time to combine, even just to one road commissioner? But this here tonight, we're looking to an appointment rather than elected. And although the reasons for the road commissioners resigning were different, some of those reasons are why we're looking at the appointed position versus elected. So.
Thank you. I think also, as we hopefully work on this together, there's been a lot of, people want accountability, they want transparency. I know you can't really hear, can you?
Speak up.
I'm speaking as loud as I can. I don't feel like it's working. People want accountability. They want transparency.
Okay.
And we want somebody that is willing to work with these committees, work with us, to do what's best for this town and what's best for the roads. We want like a 1-year plan in place, or a 3-year, or a 5-year, so we can get funding for our bridges, culverts, different things like that. So there's a lot of different reasons to go this route. So hopefully you guys will like our presentation, and I guess we go from there.
Okay. What's that?
Yep.
Yep, it's working now. Jen, go ahead.
Jennifer, sorry, put this slideshow together for us. She did a great job.
Yes.
So before we go through it, you shouldn't have any problem hearing me loud and clear, but I'd just like to remind people that I put this together at the instruction of the Board of Selectmen. What you see up here is the information that they've given me as their employee to put together and to put out to you. Okay, so these are not my personal thoughts, but as I go through and give them all to you, it's on behalf of them. Keep that in mind as we go through it. So what the board is looking to do, as they mentioned, was change from an elected to an appointed. Per the town's attorney, this is what the question would look like at a special town meeting. To see if the town of Acton shall vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to appoint one road commissioner / public works director for a term of 1 year effective the 1920 fiscal year. Okay, so this would, if passed, it would take effect in July. Anybody that currently holds that position would dissolve. Okay, so Mr. Letourneau, for example, that position would dissolve, but we're going to talk about how he factors into this as we go along. Some of the reasons why the selectmen feel like this should be appointed versus elected. Most of you are aware of the different situations that have gone on during the last 6 or 8 months, but this is their ideas. Townwide accountability. They want to see that all departments are treated the same. Townwide transparency, going through the budgets line by line. Obtaining personnel authority. We know that there have been some situations with personnel that haven't been handled as cleanly as they should in a municipality. By changing it to an appointment, this person now is a town employee, and everybody that works under them is no different than myself or the fire chief or the treasurer. They're all employees. Maintain town records and history. Create long-term plans. Enforce line item budgeting, and make sure that we have a fair hiring and termination process. Okay, we are lucky in some situations with certain road employees that we haven't been spoken to or addressed by the Department of Labor based on how some things have happened in the past. So that is very important. More reasons is that it allows for the most qualified person to be chosen rather than a popularity contest. So by getting away from it being elected, the board can actually get out there and advertise the position and have a fair hearing process. All personnel will be town employees. A townwide single point of contact, so it'll coincide with all the other departments. You guys all know that if you have an issue with the fire station, or if any of these committees have a legal question, it's all directed to the same person. That's what they're trying to do townwide with the roads, is that regardless of what road it is, it's going to go to this one person, this one department head. It also allows for consistent communications with interactions such as the road committee and Warrant and Finance. Communication hasn't been as clear as the selectmen would have liked the last few years, and one of the ways that they can get around that is by making it a town department. So by making it a town department and that person being the employee, when you have a budget meeting at 9 o'clock on a Saturday and your selectmen tell you to go, you go. You're the employee. Okay. So what the board sees if it's approved. So what they're looking at getting to is, am I in the right place?
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Is Acton will be one town, no longer divided by districts. Okay, so instead of saying the north side, the south side, District 1, District 2, it's all one town, and we're gonna go over how it will be handled. Winter maintenance will be contracted out up to 3 years. So for Mr. Letourneau, for example, he will continue to plow as a town employee for 3 years, a certain list of roads. Okay, I'm not going to tell you that the board might not shift a road or two depending on where they are in the proximity and communications that are had, but he will be plowing essentially half of the side of town. Summer work will be offered to the 2 winter contractors first, okay, and or town road employees. So what you see next is how much money was actually paid out to the 2 road commissioners and staff for summer work. And this is put up there so that you can see how little it really is. So for 3 years, 16, 17, and 18, they ranged from $31,000, $33,000, and $37,000. This is combined. Okay, so when a street sign needs to be replaced or a culvert needs to be replaced, this department head is going to first call the contracted person that maintains the winter roads, okay? And they're gonna ask them to go out and replace this culvert, or go out and replace this sign. If he's not able to do that, then we're gonna contact the other person. No more, we have to notify them in writing. We have to give them certain rights. We have to follow all these procedures just to get the job done, okay? We are going to reach out to whoever plows that side first. But you're gonna see by the numbers there's not a whole lot of summer work. Now, a conversation I had with someone prior to the meeting, there could be a lot more summer work, and we know that there are some things that need to be addressed, but we have to somehow work that into the budget. So, for the most part, this is what the previous road commissioners have spent. All work will be delegated and overseen by this new position. So whoever is the road commissioner, public works director, is going to be a department head that's going to oversee everything road related. So when something needs to happen, no matter where it is in town, he or she is going to delegate it to the correct person. Proposed job description. And remember, this is just proposed. These are some ideas that the board came up with. We're not at the hiring process. We're nowhere near that. But it's just to give you a better idea of what we see this one person doing. Inspecting town roads and ways, determines priorities and improvements, communicates short and long-term plans and priorities for the roads, creates and implements road budget, determines and schedules the need to subcontract major road construction and upgrades, prepares specs for projects requiring bids, coordinates purchasing, such as sand or salt, researches and analyzes costs, vendors, and best value for department supplies and equipment, initiates road maintenance and construction projects, ensures compliance with federal and state regulations relative to road construction and maintenance, performs manual labor when required. We're going to talk about building maintenance shortly, and you're going to see that the board is expecting this individual to actually get out there and do some work to help alleviate some of the plowing, like the town hall parking lot, the fire station. So we'll get into that. Continued job description, ensures compliance with OSHA and DEP. Works with the CEO to monitor all subcontracted road construction. So these are all the new roads, private roads going in. Schedules, assigns, and supervises the road crew in maintenance and construction work. Directs and participates in the sanding, salting, snow removal of roadways, and schedules additional part-time workers for plowing and sanding as needed. We're looking for somebody in an emergency that can get in a truck and help out Mr. Letourneau or whoever might be on the other side if necessary. Sets road grades, determines culvert sizes and the type of grade and material to be used to ensure soil stabilization. Directs the installation and replacement of road signs and bridge signs. Directs the maintenance of sand and salt sheds. Advises the Board of Selectmen on road activities and problems when needed, and confers with subordinates in regards to developing and making progress on various projects. Participates, keyword there, in the hiring of road personnel and supervises and evaluates them, which is required by law. Receives and responds to citizen inquiries and complaints. So we're gonna have one person. I don't care where the situation happened in Acton, on what road, buck's gonna stop with that department head, like every other department in town. You have an issue in my office, it doesn't matter if Cheryl, Sarah, Michelle, who did it, if I did it, the buck stops with me, and that's how it's gonna be here. Maintains and arranges for safekeeping of records, legal documents, plans, records, road surveys, and other road-related documents. Something that really needs to be addressed in Acton is the turnarounds. This is gonna be that perfect person to get it going, get the paperwork piece of it done. We just went through the flat ground road situation where all those letters had to be mailed out to everybody to ask them to sign the agreement that was voted on in June. This person is gonna be coordinating all that as a department head. Attends training sessions, workshops, and meetings as directed, just like the rest of the department heads. Integrate, use, and update of the RSMS system. The road committee has worked very hard on gathering information for the system. We've met with a lot of state officials. There's a lot of good things that this program can do for the town of Acton. The idea is that the department head will actually keep it updated and maintained. Works with road committee as directed. No, this computer doesn't have the, page computer to the last.
Cindy Hart can tell you exactly what RSMS stands for.
think you just,
Again,
yeah.
nobody wants to be that person up here. Do that one, do that one.
Right there.
It doesn't like that one, huh? Yeah, we could just,
Paperwork, after all that. All right, one more of the job description. Complete department bills and payroll. Very big. We need consistency. We need to make the timesheets the same. We need to make both sides doing the exact same thing, okay? Everybody has the same timesheet. Everybody has the same forms. Meets weekly with the town administrator to advise on all road issues. That's no different than the weekly meetings I have with code enforcement or the treasurer, just to be able to be that liaison to update the selectmen. Oversees the bridges and culverts. develops a 1, 3, and 5-year plan for the town. One of the things that I've heard a lot in Acton for the last several years is that you need to update your capital improvement plan. It is extremely old, needs to be updated. This is a big piece of it, is the roads. Perform or schedule building and ground maintenance. We don't know exactly what this is gonna look like, but there is some talk about at least having this person oversee the mowing, for example. So we'll use Mr. Hammond as an example. He does the mowing in most of the town properties. This person's gonna create that bid, get it to the selectmen, get it advertised, meet with the contractors, and possibly do some of the work as well. And then the open line that we put at everybody's job description is any and all duties, it should say, as assigned by the Board of Selectmen, okay? And remember, we're not advertising the position yet, this is very early, so this job description can change, and we're looking for input from both of your committees to be able to add to that. All right, current hourly rate. This is up there so that you can get an idea as we start talking about the fiscal impact of of adding this position to the town. So this shows you your positions in the town, starting with the Director of Planning, Code Enforcement, the Town Administrator, Town Clerk, Fire Chief, Treasurer, the Road Commissioners, the Transfer Station Superintendent, and that maintenance position. I'm not sure if you guys know, we do have a maintenance man that essentially will come and change light bulbs. He picks up the trash once a week. We're hoping to move all that and delegate it to this road commissioner / public works director, so we would be able to get rid of that position altogether. But this gives you a range. You can see the ranges start at 3642, CEO at 40 at 20 years. We're down to the transfer station at 2025 for 8 years. So that's everybody's current hourly rate. So financial impact, we ran it 4 different ways just to give the board some ideas. These numbers are a little lower than what the road commissioner was making, and primarily because this person is going to get benefits. So when the road commissioner was driving, the way it stands now as elected, they get no benefits, so the rate was higher. This position, because it's going to be a full-time salary position for the town of Acton, will be eligible for all the benefits that you'll see on the next slide. So depending on whether it's 22, 25, 27, $30 an hour, somewhere in that range, you can see what the salary would be. Based on those salaries, the numbers I brought over from the page before, you can see the salaries starting at 45.7 down to 62.4, depending on what hourly rate is agreed to with the Board of Selectmen, and taking into consideration the other positions in town. You can see the taxes, the health insurance, unemployment, workers' comp, main PERS is the retirement plan that you guys agreed to about 4 years ago. So that's the total cost. And remember, when you're looking at those numbers, you're going to be able to take out some of the summer maintenance work, because that's going to be done by this person, and also all of your building maintenance is going to be done there. This is an undesignated fund balance chart. This shows you a few different things. Primarily the purpose of this is so that you can see what the undesignated fund balance is, because if you decide at a special town meeting to move forward with this position, the money will come out of there, so it will not affect the tax rate for the special town meeting. So in 2010, the undesignated fund balance was $599, and this is what you think of kind of as your savings account. The auditor always recommends that you have a minimum of 3 months in there should everything happen, 3 months worth of paying bills. So in 2010, it was $599,000. If you look at the years, we've consistently grown it, and as of June of 18, it was $1.3 million. Okay. Generally, we use about $300,000 of that every year to roll over to offset taxes. So we decide how much the budget's going to be, and instead of appropriating it all for taxes, we use some towards undesignated funds so that we can lower the tax rate. So it's at 1.3 right now, so that's the balance in the account. Okay, so where do we go from here? Before I turn it over to Ed and he's going to open it up for questions, this is what the Board of Selectmen are thinking. Depending on what kind of support they get from the Road Committee and the Warrant and Finance, and they will certainly be talking about it at a couple of selectmen's meetings, and I'm not sure if they're going to have a public hearing or not, but they're looking to schedule a special town meeting. Because you have to have a special town meeting 90 days before your annual town meeting in order to change the position. So they would have to have a special town meeting and they would ask that question. So if, let's look at it both ways, if there's support at the special town meeting and the question is approved, right now we know that the District 2 and Joe Letourneau side is not going to be touched. District 1 side, we have currently appointed someone until I believe it's January 19th, okay? 2 weeks, another week. If the question passes and the town agrees to change this position, the Board of Selectmen will most likely, and we will get legal advice on this, but we will most likely appoint a road commissioner for the remainder of the winter, 18-19 winter. Okay, so basically, we're going to, whether we reach out to Mr. Langley or we have to advertise it, we're looking for somebody to get us through the rest of January, February, March. Because we know it's passed, and starting July 1, we've got a town department, okay? If we have a special town meeting and it fails, then you're going to have an employee, Mr. Letourneau, on one side of town, and shortly, sometime in March, you will see my office advertising nomination papers, and we will have an election for just District 1. Okay, so then we'll be dealing with an employee, because no matter what happens here, Mr. Letourneau is an employee of the town of Acton. He's not an elected road commissioner. He was appointed for a 3-year term. So it's what do we do with the other side? Is this the right time to join it all together? Or are we going to have one elected and one appointed? So that's kind of what the options are depending on what the voters in Acton decide. Good?
Okay,
Thank you.
good. From either one of the two committees, you've taken in an awful lot with this presentation. Like I say, you may want to go back and think it over and come back with some questions, or do you have any immediate questions that we can attempt to answer? We don't have all the answers maybe immediately here, but we will definitely try, yes. Roland had his hand up first, I believe.
What kind of time frame are we looking at for a special town meeting if it is decided that we want to support this endeavor?
Well, like Jennifer says, we have to be 90 days out from, which is 3 months, out from our regular town meeting. The town meeting is usually, what, around the 19th or so of June. So that's what, March?
March.
Is it later this
Well,
year?
it's the second one falls with the primaries. It's going to
Okay.
have to be sooner than later because the nomination papers process.
Right.
Because those are required to be out 85 days before the election. So depending on the support and the questions that we can or can't get answered, I think that you guys had said end of January, 1st of February. We're looking to turn it right around.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like, because, yeah, the middle of March, April, May, middle of March would be the day, would be the 90 days, which the 85 falls into that
We have to
as
plan
well.
If it fails, going the
Yeah.
other way.
Yeah,
It's got to be before then.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you're looking at a special town meeting, say February.
Sometime between now and middle of February, probably.
Yep.
Is there a reason why we're looking at is there a reason why we can't do an interim appointment to the end of Scott's term, which is in June?
Like Jennifer said, if we're gonna do the special town, we're gonna do it, we've gotta do it before
For the town meeting.
the town meeting. We can't, we wouldn't
I
be able to
understand
do
that.
that.
Well, we provided the presentation with why we should become a town department, not an elected position.
I understand that, and I'm not looking to go back to
So-
electing a road
So
commissioner.
what we need to do is have this 90 days before the regular town meeting. We can't do it at town meeting.
I think, Roland, if I understand what you're asking, I think that by appointing just for the remainder of the winter, for the winter period, legally, I believe that we may be able to just extend or ask someone, you know, if we say to Mr. Langley, listen, you know, can you get us through the remainder of the year? Or can you get us through the remainder of the season versus if we fill a term through June 30th, in the middle of winter, we're probably gonna have to advertise and, you know, and do the whole position, even though it's really only for 4 months. So are we appointing him a temporary interim interim just to get us through winter, or are we gonna keep appointing him for 1 week at a time to advertise the position just to get us through June?
Oh, we don't want to do that.
I know. So the plan, the plan is, what I believe the selectmen are gonna do tomorrow night, and again, this is, my belief, is that depending on how this goes and what direction we go in, scheduling a special town meeting, you're gonna need to appoint Mr. Langley till at least the end of that special town meeting, because right now he's good through the 19th, but, I mean, it's May and it's January, so we can't play with that piece of it. So, I think that's why they're going just through the winter rather than June, but that can always be, I mean, if that's a big make or break, we could certainly look into that as well. But we don't want him to stop doing winter maintenance, advertise a position, and if he doesn't, that's great for road maintenance, that's
Yep.
big, but it's
Yep.
a good point.
So,
A few questions. Number one, you said that this would be a one-year agreement for 2019 to 2020. What happens at the end of 2020? You decide whether you want to keep him or keep that person, or do you re-advertise the job?
yes, yep.
Which one?
We
Oh,
want to make sure it works out.
yeah, make
Right,
sure,
we
yeah,
don't
make
wanna
sure it
do a
works out
three.
and,
We'd rather do a one, see how it works
Yeah.
out, and then.
So this person's
and then
going to be
go.
working under contract then?
Right.
No,
I would-
So so you're required by law to have a road commissioner as part of the statute. So, and a fire chief and a town clerk. So they're all one-year appointments by law, unless the townspeople vote to make it longer. So the town clerk and the treasurer were voted many years ago to turn it into 3. The code enforcement, the fire chief, road commissioner has always been 1. That's a statutory requirement.
fire chief is 3 right now.
Fire chief fire chief didn't get increased to 3.
Yep.
But the
Yep.
statute says they're one-year appointments.
Okay.
So it's just like every year when you see the board reappoint the register of voters, the animal control, it's the same thing. They have to have just cause to remove someone for an appointment, because we are regular employees. Just because we're appointed, there's still a process of the Department of Labor they have to follow.
And next year, I mean, if we find this process worked good, we got a good individual in there, or however we want to change it, we could change it with approval of the voters to a 3-year.
Okay,
We thought, let's not jump too far here, let's
okay, just wanted
Go-
to
And
see.
there's nothing
go kind
wrong
of baby
with
steps
keeping-
and,
Keeping your employees on their toes, we all look for that reappointment every year, and that's, it's,
yep,
it's not like the person is gonna make a financial investment, because there's not going to be, because we're still having to work outsourced.
right.
Okay.
Right.
Another thing that you mentioned was that all the employees that are hired to do maintenance, whether it be winter or summer, would become town employees. Would they be part-time employees, and would we be required to pay benefits for each of them if it's $19,000 a person?
Based on the personnel policy, they will be temporary, seasonal, part-time employees. They will
Yep.
not be eligible for benefits.
Okay.
Tonight, we've been told 2 different things. You can only appoint a road commissioner for 1-year term.
No, you have to have a road commissioner.
No, you have to have a
Yeah.
road commissioner,
Yeah.
and you have to, say, year-to-year appointment.
Unless the voters change it to be a multi-year, like the fire chief is, or,
And that's
Yeah.
my misspeaking, that's correct. So because it's still an elected position, they have the legal right to appoint Mr. Letourneau to a 3-year term. They appointed him for the remainder of the seat, so he got Mr. Winchell's term. If the voters change it, you can only appoint for 1 year.
So with that being said, the way it exists now, and say we do decide to appoint a road commissioner, basically we're in the same position for the next 2 years until Mr. Letourneau.
No, his position dissolves. If this passes, and he's aware of that, his position dissolves. He's no longer the road commissioner on District 2.
So why would he still be doing the work for next 2 years?
Because he is aware, when we went through the hiring process and we went through the interviewing, and the board knew that they were having these conversations, they told him that unless there was just cause on either side, that he would be guaranteed the 3-year plowing. So even if he's not the road commissioner, because I don't know if he'll apply for this position or not, but even if he's not the road commissioner by title, because of when he applied for the position, they guaranteed him a 3-year contract, which we will work on. If it gets passed, all the parties will sit down and we'll work on that contract and what it looks like.
Contract?
Right now, he doesn't have a contract.
Right, well, right now, he's appointed
He's
employee
appointed,
Yeah,
An
appointed
agreement.
employee.
agreement.
And I've got no issues with him doing.
No, I know.
What he's doing, but there's no guarantee, for example, that he has this job for the next.
No, but as an employee, and then that's why I keep saying just cause, as an employee, he has to, something has to happen so that he doesn't have a job. Maine is not an at-will state. I mean, the board can't decide tomorrow just to fire him because they don't like the color hat that he's wearing. He has rights and he's an employee, so he doesn't, you know what I mean? They absolutely can give him that guarantee.
Well, I mean, you could still get rid of him for just cause.
Right.
Just because, you're not happy with the service that you're getting.
Yeah, but based on the
with the
personnel-
roads and stuff like that.
Based on the personnel policy and the Department of Labor standards, I mean, there's a process. They have to be written up, they have to be spoken to, we go
Well, I
through all of
understand the
these.
process.
And that's why I keep
I'm
saying
just
just
saying
cause, and he
that-
knows that.
There's many reasons for just cause.
Right.
And, I don't know, there has to be, I suppose, that down the road, you're gonna be doing this, but there has to be a lot that's written down, there has to be policies, procedures, and all this stuff, and job descriptions in defense of Joe. It's kinda hard to ask somebody to do a job when you just say, go out and take care of the roads.
Right.
And as a town, that's what you've told the gentleman to do, because there's nothing to go by.
And this essentially is step one. By getting this department head in, one of the first things that department head's gonna do is start writing job descriptions for the subordinates that are gonna be under them. I mean, but because we have to come up with contracts and agreements with, he's in a different situation because, when he had to be appointed until the remainder of Winchell's term. So he still has the rights, and the board appreciates, him willing to step into that, knowing that there's a possibility that we might make this vote and make this change. He's known that since day one. The board was very open with him about that. But they still have to, give him something in return. If he does the work and he does it to a satisfactory piece, then a 3-year agreement is,
Well, I appreciate them doing it, but they didn't have to appoint him to the end of the term. They could have.
They did, that was,
They
you're
could have
right.
appointed him to
No,
the
but
next
that's-
election.
No, you're right, but anybody that's gonna put make a financial stake in a position like this, we have very few applicants to start with. And, to ask somebody, listen, I need you to maintain, I mean, when Mr. Langley stepped up for Mr. Winchell originally, I went through probably 5 people. And nothing against Dave, I mean, I knew what he did for work and I knew what his situation was. I mean, I'm reaching out to contractors, the Knox brothers, the Muse boys. I'm going through everybody, just pleading with them to find somebody to step up and pick up these roads. We've just had a resignation. I mean, Joe stepped into this and, I mean, who would apply for a job for 6 months and he's got to make a financial investment buying these trucks? It was the right thing to do to give him a 3 years so that he's guaranteed to at least be able to pay off anything that, he might have had to do to take the position in the
Hence,
first
moving
place.
forward, the road commissioner shouldn't be hiring his own business to do the work.
And one of the goals of this department head is to, this person isn't going to be, the person that's in this position, and they're looking for more management, more management and paperwork and administration piece, because we know we have guys that can do the work, right?
Right.
We're looking for somebody that can manage and direct, and so this person isn't gonna be out there
he'll
trying
be
to.
working with other towns, talking about bridges, hopefully applying for
More
grants
of an
and,
administration piece,
But also have the ability to be able to
jump on a truck.
jump in a truck
Yeah.
and hit the street, so.
Should have a
Rather,
CDO.
it should save us money.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
That's the bottom
Yeah.
line.
But we also have to make it worth it to the guys that are doing the road,
Right.
the work to stay around, because as you'll see from all surrounding towns, Chapley and Alfred, I mean, what they're getting per mile to plow, I mean, these guys are doing us, hell of a service for the price that we're paying them.
Yep, yep. Carol?
So the difference between electing a road commissioner and appointing a road commissioner is, one of the biggest downsides to it is that you're taking the voice of the people, the ability to recall, if the public is not happy with the performance of the person that's in that position, it's going to be very hard to change that person. Because you folks that were pointing them, you're looking towards in the future 3 years, and once they're an employee, it's very hard to get rid of them, no matter how poorly they behave. You know, no matter how unprofessional they act. I mean, we've seen it with other appointed employees, and,
On the
I
other
mean,
hand-
you're totally taking the power away from
They still have to follow the
the voter.
personnel policy. With elected, there was nothing.
Nothing,
And
absolutely
there weren't
nothing.
enough people paying attention to do a recall.
I understand, you know, but it's also that the people in this town do like having a say over things. I mean, it's a perfect example, you know, I'm a broken record with the 5 o'clock meeting times. I have to take PTO to hit this meeting tonight. It's not fair for me to volunteer on a board in this town, for me to have to use an hour of PTO every time I come. But it's disregarded for over a year now. You know, it's not fair. And it's, you know, the people just don't have a voice as it is over how things are running. And I just think that by appointing a road commissioner, it's just one more thing that the people aren't going to have any say over.
I would think that they would have more of a voice now, because now they're working for the town, so that we can speak with them. We can say, there's issues, we need you to do this, we need you to do that. Whereas we couldn't do that before. We couldn't say anything. Our hands were tied with the road commissioners. You know, at least this way, if they're an employee, if they don't do what is asked of them,
It's going
then
to be very hard to get rid of them.
it's the
very
same
hard.
way with the road commissioner. How, I
No,
mean,
it's not, because the people just have to do a recall petition to get them out. I mean, we did it with one of the selectmen.
Well, and really, that's where we're stopped, I mean, that's
Yeah,
where it
I
ends,
mean-
and that would be the
Yeah.
only recourse, you're right.
Right.
It does take away a piece of it, you're absolutely right. But it also makes all the town departments fair and transparent across the board, and everybody's treated the same as employees. If you have a board of selectmen, and we'll use, you know, me for an example, because I'm sitting here, I mean, if I'm continuously not doing my job day after day after day, and you're constantly making complaints to the selectmen at public meetings, and we're not doing, you know, they're not doing or taking your direction as voters, then, you know, the buck stops with the selectmen, recall them. You know, if they're keeping people in place that cannot do the job or keep the roads safe, then that's where you need to start recalling. Because that, you know, that's really what it is. And I guess the flip side of that is that, you know, people stand up and make concerns about town employees all the time. You know
I know.
firsthand that, you know, out of 100 complaints, how many of them are, you know, legitimate, someone did something really wrong where they should be, you know, disciplined for it. If we all got, you know, if we got disciplined or terminated every time someone stood up in an audience that wasn't happy with something that we did, you wouldn't have any employees. So you
Right.
still have to trust that they're, you know what I mean? I mean, there are going to be
To some extent, yes.
but it really is, you know,
The road commissioners we had before, the position, you vote them in for a 3-year term. We're voted in for a 3-year term, but every year you get to choose one of us. So if you didn't like the way it was going, you can recall us, you can oust us once a year and get it, you know, have yourself heard and get it straightened out that way. But unfortunately, we can't go into all the details,
and that's the big piece.
yes, of why
There
some of
are
the things that
other-
were done this year and in past years, due to
The only control that
particular
you-
laws,
The only control
So-
that you had over the
purse strings.
elected commissioners was to not sign their weekly warrants.
Right.
That's it.
That's it.
That's the only control you had
You
over
cannot
them.
tell them, you know, to do A, B,
Yeah.
and C, you cannot, you know, tell them to use this form, you
Yeah.
cannot, I mean, it's just.
we'd like you to go to training. No. I mean, there's
And
things
it
We're
was-
like
not, just for
that, you know.
clarification, we're not saying that David
No,
or Scott did.
No, no.
But I'm talking about like there's things
No.
we would like our road guys to do. You know, we'd like to be able to offer different classes
Yep.
and things like that for the people that work, you know, under them. Just,
Yep.
you know.
Mr. Langley has his hand up.
Okay. Dave?
Question, just to clarify this for myself and the other people. Our rates that we operate on, Joe has agreed to 3 years to finish out Mr. Winchell's term, so I would assume those are the rates that he's gonna follow through with and proceed. Now, however this goes.
Abby, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second, because remember, the rates are set by the townspeople, so
Yep.
the Board of Selectmen can put X number forward, but there's nothing that says a rate can't be lowered at town meeting, so they cannot agree or obligate themselves to say, you know what, Joe, for 3 years, you're going to get the $30 rate. It's up to the voters and the people. So that's a big thing to keep in mind.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
is-
So they can't
is
promise
these-
when it comes to
these
those
things,
things.
It financially costs money to operate.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, I'll be honest with you, at the end of the day, we have to make a profit. Once again, farm has to
Yeah,
make a
we all
profit.
do.
And just like everybody else that's in the dirt business, just like the company you work for, Carol. And we have to look out for the little guy. That's what I'm, so that's what I'm asking, is if the District 1 in the town, whether it's elected or that person gets appointed, what's gonna happen with our rates for our equipment and our hourly rates? If you guys kinda toss that around a little bit and see, I mean, that's a big
This
thing
is-
at the end of the day.
This is like just the first
Yeah.
meeting. I mean, so
Yeah.
we're.
Oh, no,
yeah,
I'm sure,
no.
I mean, it crossed our minds, but we said, we gotta do one step at a
No, that's
time.
fine, I just wanna make sure that, that's.
And I think that, I don't think that the equipment rates are gonna change at all. I don't think the equipment rates are gonna change at all. But if they take less responsibility off the actual road commissioner, there may be some fluctuability in that rate. But not to an extent, the other person's gonna have benefits, because so you're gonna have a department head that we're gonna start at $25 an hour, we're gonna pay someone $30 to go out and plow, but remember, they've taken a lot of things off the top of what this road commissioner, he now no longer has to do, the alphabet A through M almost, because this other person's gonna be doing it, so. I can't imagine they would make a
I know, I
drop
just,
of
because
much
one of the
substance.
things is.
No, and it's a good point, it's a good thing
Because
to,
it's,
yep.
and Mr. Walsh, Selectman Walsh understands, he does it for a living.
Yeah.
And everybody struggles with the drivers. And the old saying, you pay peanuts, you're gonna get monkeys. Well, you've got a $50,000, $60,000 truck that you bought used, and to keep the upgrade and the responsibility that you need to make sure the townspeople are safe, and our school children, and our fire apparatus, there's a big responsibility there. And I'm not gonna put somebody in a truck that when they're paying only 16, whatever, a little, you get what you pay for,
Right.
I just wanted to bring that up, just to, see
Thank you.
where we're headed with it and everything, but no, the town's been very fair with things and everything, I appreciate it, I think Joe does, but, there are concerns, it's new territory that we're kind of looking at, which is not bad, it's not a bad idea at all.
Right, yeah, and we're gonna try to, we've taken some of those concerns into consideration with what we're doing, and we're gonna continue in that direction to try to make sure that, well, if you happen to be the one that's gonna continue with District 1 and Joe is gonna be on District 2, to try to maintain as close to where it sits right now as possible with the rates that we have.
They're not looking to cut the budget.
No.
I mean, this is,
No.
we went through the undesignated fund because this position's gonna be in addition to, so
Right.
I see very little change, if any, to those rates.
Yep. Yep. Anyone on the road committee have any questions or thoughts?
I have one more point.
Okay.
One
Go
of the
ahead.
things that we've been talking about is lack of funding for major projects. And just want to make sure that people understand that we haven't been providing a lot of money for doing bridges or culverts or whatever. And that if we go into this line item budgeting and all that, if the budget happens to go up because of those kinds of things, it shouldn't be blamed on the new road commissioner slash public works director. It's something that the town has been lacking in doing, and, don't hold it against that person for doing that.
I think that in hearing what this board has said in regards to capital improvements, I think that now that they have one employee, one road commissioner employee, regardless of what happens at the end of the month, they're going to start putting a warrant article forward anyways to start putting some money aside and making these 3- and 5-year plans. So that should be addressed. And that'll be a separate warrant article, so it won't be included in the roads, so that voters won't see an increase there.
Okay.
And as you saw in the I just want to finish his conversation. As you saw in the presentation, between $31,000, $33,000, and $37,000 for summer maintenance, or for everything that the road commissioners did, that was some culvert replacement and ditching and whatnot. That's not a lot of money. It's not, I guess what I'm saying is, for that money, you don't get a lot of work.
Right.
A lot of was done.
Yeah, and, so, you
But
know,
let's be truthful about it, not a lot was really getting done.
right, so,
And
you
in
know,
the case of where we stand right now, we could be looking at $500,000 over the next few years for for the work on Canal Bridge, on Row Bridge,
Right.
and West Shore.
right.
So there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Right.
Right
And that's
now, there's no
regardless-
money available. for
Yeah,
it.
and that's regardless whether it's appointed or
Exactly.
elected, so.
Yep.
Nancy?
Back to, well, I just wondered, other towns that have a position similar to this one that you're proposing, do they normally appoint for 1 year? And because that's a requirement because of our way of government? And it's sort of ironic that you can appoint for 1 year but give someone a contract for 3. I mean, I can't imagine someone wanting to take on all this responsibility with no guarantee as to
Yep.
what their future is.
But in all fairness, I mean, none of us as appointed employees have that. I mean, you know what I mean? When June 30th comes around, your code enforcement officer, your fire chief, your town clerk, your treasurer, we all have appointments. We all have no guarantee that on July 1 that we'll be employed by the town of Acton. I mean, it's really no different,
Depending on what the term is.
depending on what the term is, right?
But
Yeah.
I just wondered.
The agreement is, the town can't generally enter into agreements that future town meetings will require funds for, you know that.
Yes.
Joe Letourneau is in a completely different situation
me.
because he was appointed to fill the remainder of an elected term.
I understand.
So this is completely different. So we will not, you know, it probably, his is gonna be just a different situation than the other side of town, but they had the right to guarantee him the plowing for 3 years based on, if this question passes.
And a lot of towns do go out to bid on plowing, and they do multiple years.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Right.
anyone else?
I just have one more question.
Go ahead.
You had talked about how it made sense to have one person for the whole town, because the 2 districts don't really make sense. Is it your thought that eventually you will just eliminate the District 1, District 2, and it'll just be the roads? And it'll
I
just be
think,
however?
I think that would happen immediately. I mean, we're only calling it District 1 and District 2 for the,
Purpose of the election.
yeah, the purpose of the election, or to show how it's split right now. It'll be more of a case of, you'll have your road commissioner oversee the whole town, and X amount of roads will be given to this person, and X amount of roads will be given to this person. So it won't ever be the District 1 and 2 anymore. So, yeah, I think that'll be going away pretty much.
We could even have 3 road winter contracts.
Yeah, you could break it into 3 if we didn't.
What
if-
we need. I mean,
Yeah.
it depends on,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
depends on
what
the need.
comes in.
Yeah.
and-
We need to quit throwing the word contract out there, because
Yeah,
there is
yeah,
no
agreement.
contract.
Yeah, it's not a contract.
Joe has
Yeah.
a question.
Go ahead.
The only concern I see with contracting stuff out, like for plowing, excuse me, with a cold here, but, I feel that I've seen it happen, and I feel that the quality of work goes down. You don't get what you get when you have people that work by the hour. They take pride in it, you know, because I was over in Alfred for 5 or 6 years. They went to a contract, and then they went to somebody new this past year. And, you know, there's other, because when you have a contract, you get X amount of dollars.
Yeah, and not to interrupt you, but yeah, that's not.
That's not the
contract-
idea.
word contract is being used incorrectly then.
Yep.
They're looking at having an agreement with you.
No, no,
We will
I'm not
continue to
saying-
have, well, no, I'm just saying, so they're not looking to go out to contract for, you know, all of these roads for a flat fee. They're gonna continue to pay and do it the way that you're doing it now.
Right.
Right, but after my term is up, you know, I don't know, like Shapley, you know, they put it out to bid.
They're not going in that direction
No.
that Shapley is
Okay.
in.
No, that's not our intent.
No.
Okay.
So if we keep investing, Joe keeps investing or whatever.
He's a
he-
regular-
At the 4th year, he doesn't have to work, but we gotta sit down with whatever.
No, right, I mean, just,
As long as his performance or
That's-
the north end
that's the key
performance is
word
up,
right there.
Right.
and every year, we're gonna have
As long as the Board of Selectmen doesn't have a long list,
yeah.
yep.
Have through the
Right.
state, or have a
Yep.
private company come in and set this all up, and check everything up, you know, and if, like you said, if there are issues, we document it,
Right.
we sit down, have a talk, we handwrite, you sign that you talk, there's a whole process.
All employees
Yep.
get yearly evaluations, and these these road commissioners, like, in the past, they weren't getting evaluated at all by anybody short of the voters. When really, it was the selectmen that were dealing with them one-on-one, and, you know, Ed is saying it the best way he can in regards to, there's a lot of things behind the scene that we can't, you know, disclose to you here tonight as far as pushing this, but it's just it's an administration piece to be able to make sure that everybody's treated the same and fairly and looking out for the town. But they're not going to go to a contracts as far as flat rates per mile. It's going to continue the way it is. It's just going to be agreement more with just you, Joe, because of, you know, for now, because of what they've already guaranteed you. But at the end of the 3 years, if nothing's happened, or, you know, they're not even going to advertise the position to keep going. They don't advertise the town clerk's position at the end of my term. Unless they have just cause and a good reason to, they're not going to. It's just going to be a continuous appointment. Continuous state, you know, you're continuing to be an employee of the town of Acton.
Okay, well, that's just a little.
I mean, they're good questions.
It wasn't, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up, because I didn't know if that was
No.
what, so that should be clarified, I guess.
And that's the thing, this is, you know, this is the four of us sitting down for, you know, a couple of times and throwing the ideas together and looking over some road committee meetings, and this is the first time, and it is rough, you know, but you've given us a lot of good things to go back and make adjustments with, and some questions that we need to get answered.
Yep, and I'd hope that you come back with some more questions too, because have your own committee meetings and hash it over, and, Dennis?
Just to address Joe, he also needs to understand the town meeting controls all this. The selectman is supposed to do whatever town meeting says. So the selectman can say to Joe, we're gonna continue with the way we're doing business for whatever. And if the town meeting says, no, we're not, then it's out of your hands.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with the rates. If the town meeting says, we're not gonna pay this rate for this, or whatever, whether Joe spent $200,000 for a piece of equipment or not, that's just, town meeting controls all of it.
I mean, town meeting controls the rates, I agree with you 100% there, but the town meeting really can't or doesn't change the form of government or the position, because it's the Board of Selectmen's warrant, and unless there's a warrant article on there that says, do you want to change it back, or unless we have a petition and
That's what I'm
a
saying.
special meeting is
The
called.
The townspeople do
Right.
have that authority.
Right.
Yeah.
No matter
Yeah.
how
Split,
they
but a lot of
use
things
it.
would
Yeah.
have to be
Going to
going,
give false
Yeah.
security.
Right.
it's, yes.
And I think that's another reason why we're looking to do this position for 1 year, as opposed to making it a multi-year. I mean, the fire chief we did do for 3 years. We felt that whoever was gonna come into that position was gonna have to make a life change to come to Acton and do it. I'm not sure if this position falls quite into that or not.
I mean, next year, the town could very easily say that we are gonna contract out the plowing and sanding per mile in the town.
Right,
And that's just, and it's out of your hands.
right.
So they'd have to do that by petition.
No, I
Right,
appreciate
okay.
that.
No, I know, I don't want you to scare him either, because
I'm not
you
trying
look
to
at the
scare
last
him,
10
I'm
or
trying to tell the
15. I know, and I agree with you 100%,
Yeah.
but I think that if you look at the last 10 or 15 years in Acton, and you look at, you know, smart, intelligent people that are all getting together and talking about it, you know, what I mean, the chances of those things are happening, you have to admit, are extremely minor, so I just want to make sure he sees both sides of it. I mean, there have to be a real good reason for them to want to say, all of a sudden, geez,
Right.
Joe, thanks for stepping up and plowing all this, but, you know, we're gonna create
Yeah.
a petition to change it. You didn't do that in the last X amount of years, when there's a lot more
Yeah.
issues that came to the forefront.
Right.
You know, and I'm not saying that you should have, please, Dave,
No.
please don't call me. I'm just saying that, I'm not saying anything, David Scott. I'm just saying, if I look at history and some of the things that have happened since I've worked with the town of Acton, those steps haven't taken place, so the chances of those, Joe,
Yeah.
are slim.
Well, I wasn't worried about it, I just wanted.
Oh, no, I know, I just-
Contract, Bob.
That scares me, so I just wanted to make sure.
Well, no,
And it's a good point. I mean, Carolyn, you have very valid points, and you're right, you
Right.
can't mislead. But I think it's important to see the other side too.
Yep. Any other questions? It's got to be some more. Go ahead.
The town votes in favor of this, and at the end of the 3-year term that Joe has, if he decides to take the single road commissioner position, will he be able to plow with his own trucks?
Well, so he can't, so I think from what we've kind of talked about, if, let's just say that it passes and we post the job, we're looking for, and I'm not saying anything about Joe, but we're looking for an administrative office person that's gonna sit behind a desk and do all of these things that need to be done first. So I don't expect that that's gonna be the same person that wants to be in a plow truck. I see them as completely different people. Do you know what I mean? Knowing what this board needs and expects from this new position, although we want to say that, you know, you can jump in a truck and go plow a parking lot if you need to, that's going to be one of the last qualifications. We need somebody that can, and not that Joe can't, but he, you know, his expertise is plowing roads and maintaining and construction. It's almost opposite of what we're looking for in a position. Does that make sense?
But there's absolutely nothing right now that says that if we do go out to try to hire this position, you know, you folks say that, yep, we want to do it, we put it out to hire, and Joe puts in for it. There's nothing that says he can't put in for it.
No,
Or
absolutely
anyone,
not, right.
for that
Anybody
matter. Yeah, anybody could put in for it, so.
But it would be hard pressed to do both jobs at once.
Right.
And we would have those conversations, because you can't manage an entire department, an entire town, if you're gonna be out 24/7 doing road work. It would be difficult to do both, and I think we'd have those conversations with the candidates.
Have you met, talked to your legal team? Because I would think that'd be a conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest
It's-
is spelled out by statute, and things that you and I would expect to be
Yeah.
conflict really aren't laid out in law, but it's a good point to
Yeah,
to ask.
this may be different because it is a hired position as opposed to an elected position. Before, the elected person could use, you know, their own company. Basically, what the town was doing was hiring their company. So,
But at this
no matter how
point-
you want to look at it,
Right, the
so.
board would be telling their new
Right.
department head that's in that management position. I mean, I would think that this board would say, you know, now that we've gone over 3 pages of a job description, I mean, when are they gonna have
Yeah.
time to go out and plow?
Yeah,
So, you know, they can tell them not, you know, if Nancy gets this department head job and she's running the department, you know, she still is not gonna be able to award one side without talking to the board. So they're gonna have input in who's chosen. So, I mean, I have to believe
Yeah.
those things would be taken
Yeah.
into consideration.
Yeah.
Can't imagine it would ever be the
Carol?
same person.
I don't know if it's legally a conflict of interest or not, but
Morally.
it's definitely unethical
Yeah.
for you to get an employee of the town to get financial gain,
Mhm.
even if they're not the ones doing it. If
True.
20 of their employees are, it's not right.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. Okay.
I'd just like to say, you know, with the Board of Selectmen, what you three have done tonight, the most positive thing that I have seen enacted, at least in the last 2 or 3 years. My hat is off to you, and I think you've made an absolutely great step forward for our town. I just have a couple of quick questions about the development of the 135-year plan. Can, in that, you give a few examples of what kind of stuff is going to be in the plan, like capital improvement, new projects, or something like that, just road plan?
Yeah, I think that, and Mr. Gregory touched on a big piece of that. I think that it's, you know, we had a lot of conversations about, what was the road, David, that needed to be plowed, needed to be paved?
New Bridge?
New Bridge.
New Bridge.
New Bridge. It's putting all the, you know, it's having this department head look at all the roads and take this RSMS system and to rate them all. So in a 3-year plan, you know, we want to be able to pave New Bridge. We want to be able to fix fix Flat Ground Road. It's just
Be nice to
putting
know
everything in the
ahead.
same bowl and organizing it as to
You
what
might
needs to
want
be
to put
done.
in some words like including new projects as well as capital.
Mm-hmm.
Number
Yeah.
one. Number 2 is the fact that if there, also in addition, in as far as the job descriptions, to assist in the development of new forms to ensure smooth flow of information and accountability. I think that this person ought to be going and working with the Board of Selectmen and making sure that the forms we're going to use are not only universally used by everybody in the system, but also that they give information and accountability to the Board of Selectmen before they turn it over to the Treasury for disbursement. As far as the idea of the electorate losing power, it hasn't worked with this group of people. It hasn't worked with the elected road commissioners. It was a political piece. They were placed in with a lot of conflict of interest sitting out there in the field. It was not going to work forever, and I'm so glad that you all have taken the time to at least bring up the fact that we ought to consider changing. So the population didn't really come forth with asking questions of the road commissions, but came to you all and you had to say, I'm sorry, but I don't have any responsibility for this. And what we are going to get if the system is successful is that we're going to, while you're going to lose an official way of recalling, you're going to gain a tremendous amount of accountability. And
True.
that's what we're going to gain out of that. And I think that we should pursue that. The only other additional thing I wanted to say was, to add cement to that increased accountability, please consider the development of a really good municipal code of conduct and ethics, so that people know that if somebody's really doing something wrong and they've called 17,000 times and never gotten any answer back, let alone a result, that this goes into somebody's mechanism that you want to develop as far as a code of conduct and a code of ethics that will add more fervor to this fact that we're going to get more accountability with this kind of a system, even though we will no longer have the right of recall. I'll shut up there.
Great, thank you. Thank you for your kind words when you started off.
And don't go anywhere, Mr. Williams. The fire commission is going to be
So that's another, we're not even,
I know, I'm just giving him a heads up because
Well,
he's
we-
bouncing back and forth
well,
between
that's not
principal.
part of tonight's meeting, so, that decision hasn't even been made, so. Any other questions or comments on this here?
One
You know?
thing at a time.
Go ahead.
For the uninformed, what is the RSMS system?
The roads and signs.
Road survey
maintenance.
maintenance system.
What's it do?
It tracks, what you do is you do a survey on the roads, and you have the ability to input criteria about the road, about the ditching, about the edging of the roads, and you can categorize them as whether they're good, bad. There's 9 categories that you can indicate, depending on the severity of the problem as well as the degree of the problem.
It's a database that's gonna control everything road-related that you can imagine, from the width, length, when it was accepted, what turnarounds. It's just a big database program that stores all of that could be very helpful.
And it spits out a color-coded priority of maintenance.
Based on what data you've entered in and what you've told it.
It'd be something that'll help with like history too, be something that we
That's one
will
of the
always
biggest things, is
have.
it'll track all the things that you've done as long as it's input properly.
Right.
So that 3 years from now, you can see what maintenance we did or what we didn't do.
Yep. And
What needs to-
the road committee this past fall went out and did a complete survey of the roads, and they've got a lot of that information in that system now. So now it's just a matter of cultivating it and bringing it right up to where it needs to be. In the past, with the 2 road commissioners that we had, or the process of having 2 road commissioners, we would give $90,000 here and $90,000 there to do hot top. We might have had a road in town that would have needed $150,000 worth of hot top, and another one that might have needed 50. But because of the way it was broken down with the 2 road commissioners, with having 2 road commissioners, we didn't have that process. Now, if we have $180,000 in hot top, the single road commissioner can look at the roads and say, okay, I've got this road here that's really bad, I can put $180,000 to it, or break it up in any way that he might want to. Where in the past, we didn't have that ability. Or he had the ability to come to us and, come at town meeting and say, I want to do this particular road, will you give me $150,000 or $200,000 to do it? So, the whole process of the whole thing is gonna, I see it as being a huge benefit to the town. And we are definitely, we're definitely gonna do the breakdown on the budget as well. So it won't be summer, winter, and, paving. So we'll have a great, more understanding and a better breakdown as to exactly what our road money is being used for. Right down to culverts, to hot topping, to tree work, to, ditching, the whole thing. And we should know exactly where those all fall, so. Anyone else have any other questions? No? Do you have anything you want to add? Kim?
I'm good.
Jennifer? No? I think with that, we'll,
Did you look at me yet?
no, I did not. We don't have a section on here tonight, Dennis, for public input. It's all public input, so. That's a long-going joke with Dennis and I. So I think with that, I think we'll call the meeting, and thank you all very much for coming.
Do you have